10 Stoic lessons that will fix 92% of your problems. Master your mind. Stoic philosophy. Hook. Most people walk through life fighting the wrong battles. They battle other people. They battle circumstances. They battle things that happened years ago and things that may never happen at all, and they lose. Not because life is cruel, but because they never learned how to fight correctly. The Stoics knew something that the modern world has forgotten. They knew that the war is never out there. It has always been in here, inside the mind. Inside the choices you make when no one is watching. Inside the way you respond when the world refuses to cooperate with your plans. Today, we are not talking about motivational quotes you forget by tomorrow. We are talking about 10 battle-tested Stoic lessons that, if you apply even half of them, will eliminate the majority of your suffering, your confusion, and your self-destruction. These are the lessons that made Marcus Aurelius one of the greatest rulers in human history. These are the principles that kept Epictetus, a man who was literally enslaved, freer in spirit than the men who held his chains. These are the ideas that helped Seneca navigate wealth, exile, and death with equal composure. If you are tired of being a passenger in your own life, pay very close attention. What you are about to hear will change how you see yourself, your problems, and your potential. And if this channel has ever added value to your life, do yourself a favor, subscribe to Quotes Library right now. Every week we publish content like this that could genuinely shift your trajectory. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss it. Lesson 1. Control what you can. Release everything else. Of all the Stoic lessons ever recorded, this one may be the most powerful and the most misunderstood. Epictetus opens his entire manual on living, the Enchiridion, with a single division. Some things are in our power. Some things are not. That is the whole game. Learn to tell the difference and you will have more inner peace than most people find in a lifetime. What is in your power? Your choices, your responses, your attention, your values, your effort. What is not in your power? Other people's opinions, the economy, your past, traffic, your body aging, the way someone chooses to treat you, the results of your actions. Most people operate in complete contradiction to this. They obsess over what others think and ignore their own thinking. They pour their energy into controlling outcomes and ignore controlling their input. They wake up anxious about things they cannot move and neglect the things they absolutely can. The Stoic practice here is radical and simple. Every morning, before the noise of the day begins, ask yourself, where is my energy going? Is it aimed at something I can actually influence? Or am I burning myself up over something that was never mine to control? The moment you redirect your energy from the uncontrollable to the controllable, you stop being a victim and start being a practitioner of real power. This single shift, done consistently, will dissolve at least a third of your daily problems before they fully form. Lesson 2. Your opinion of events creates your suffering. Not the events themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that very few things actually harm us. It is almost always our opinion of them that does the damage. This is one of the most confronting truths in all of philosophy because it removes the external world as the primary source of your suffering and places the responsibility squarely on your own mind. Think about this. Two people can experience the exact same rejection, the same job application denied, the same person who walked away, the same public embarrassment, and one will be destroyed while the other will grow stronger. The event did not change. What changed is the story each person attached to it. Seneca understood this deeply. He watched men of great wealth live in constant misery and men with almost nothing live in quiet contentment. The difference was never the circumstances. It was always the interpretation. When you call something a catastrophe, your nervous system responds as if it is a catastrophe. When you call it a challenge, your mind begins searching for solutions. You are not deceiving yourself. You are choosing your frame, and your frame determines your experience of reality. This does not mean you deny pain. It means you stop adding unnecessary suffering on top of real pain. The Stoics were not cold men. They felt deeply, but they trained themselves not to exaggerate, not to catastrophize, and not to let an opinion about an event become more destructive than the event itself. When something hard happens today, pause. Ask, what is the bare fact here, stripped of all my interpretations? Then work with the fact, not the story. Lesson 3. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. This may sound dark. The Stoics would tell you it is the opposite. Remembering death is one of the most life-giving practices a human being can adopt because it destroys the illusion that you have unlimited time to waste on trivialities. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea again and again throughout meditations. He meditated on the deaths of kings, philosophers, and conquerors. All of them gone. All of their fame dissolved. All of their arguments made irrelevant by time. He did not do this to become morbid. He did it to stay honest. To keep perspective. To remind himself that each day given was a gift and not a guarantee. When you truly absorb the reality of your mortality, not as an abstract idea but as a felt truth, your priorities rearrange themselves without effort. The grudges that seemed so important begin to feel like an absurd use of whatever time you have left. The courage you have been postponing starts to feel more urgent than your fear. The people you love become more precious. The small pleasures, sunlight, a good meal, a genuine conversation, become extraordinary. Most people live as if they will have a chance later. Later to forgive, later to create, later to become who they always intended to be. The Stoics knew that later is the most dangerous word in any language. Reflect on your mortality not to be paralyzed but to be activated. The awareness of an ending gives the present moment an urgency and a richness that comfort alone never can. If this kind of content moves you, subscribe to Quotes Library. We are building a community of people who take their inner life seriously, and this is exactly the kind of depth we go to, every single week. Lesson 4. Negative visualization. Prepare for difficulty before it arrives. The modern world sells you one direction. Positive thinking, vision boards, manifestation. And while optimism has its place, the Stoics understood something that the optimism industry will not tell you: the unprepared mind breaks under pressure. The prepared mind bends and recovers. Negative visualization, which Seneca called the premeditation of evils, is the practice of imagining bad outcomes before they occur. Not to dwell in fear, not to attract disaster, but to deprive fate of its power to shock you. When you have already sat with the possibility of loss, failure, illness, or rejection, those things cannot ambush you with the same ferocity. You have already made peace with the possibility. Consider how this works in real life. The soldier who has never visualized injury panics in battle. The one who has mentally rehearsed it responds with trained calmness. The entrepreneur who has never considered failure collapses when the business struggles. The one who prepared for it pivots strategically. Negative visualization is not pessimism. It is psychological armor. There is also an unexpected benefit. When you imagine losing what you have, your health, your relationships, your freedom, your possessions, you begin to appreciate them in a way that habitual comfort never allows. The Stoics practiced this deliberately. Seneca would occasionally eat simple food and wear plain clothes, not out of poverty but to remind himself of what life would look like without luxury, and to find contentment in simplicity. When what you feared most does not come, you are left with deep gratitude. And when it does come, you are already fortified. Lesson 5. Act virtuously. The outcome is not your department. This lesson will upset people who have been told that success is always a direct result of effort. The Stoics would refine that. They would say that virtue, doing the right thing, with full effort, for the right reasons, is entirely within your control. The outcome that follows is not, and wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire and still faced plague, betrayal, war, and personal tragedy. He did not have the power to control all outcomes. What he had was the absolute commitment to act with integrity regardless of what fate delivered. That was his form of mastery. Not mastery over the world, mastery over himself. This lesson frees you from one of the most suffocating traps in modern thinking, tying your self-worth to your results. When your identity depends on outcomes, every failure becomes a verdict on who you are. But when your identity is rooted in how you act, in the quality of your effort, your honesty, your courage, then failure becomes information. You acted well. The result was unfavorable. Now you adapt. That is not defeat. That is wisdom in motion. The Stoic does not say, "I will feel worthy when I succeed." The Stoic says, "I will act worthily right now, and let whatever comes come." This is not resignation. It is the deepest form of confidence, the kind that does not need the world to agree with it to survive. Lesson 6. Your anger is borrowed strength you cannot afford. Seneca wrote an entire treatise on anger. Not because he was a naturally calm man, but precisely because he understood how devastating unchecked anger could be. He called anger a brief madness. And he was right. In the heat of anger, people destroy in seconds what took years to build. Relationships, reputations, opportunities. Trust. The Stoics did not say you must never feel anger. They said you must never let anger make your decisions. There is a profound difference between feeling rage and acting from rage. The first is human. The second is surrender. A surrender of your reason to your impulse, of your future to your worst moment. Epictetus taught that when someone insults you or mistreats you, the harm they cause is limited only to what you allow to enter your mind and take root. The man who mocks you has power over nothing but the words he speaks. You decide what happens next, whether those words find fertile ground in your mind or dissolve in the air before you. Practically, the Stoic remedy for anger is delay. When the wave rises, do not act. Not yet. Let one breath pass, then another. Ask, what would a composed, intelligent, respected version of me to hear? Because the angry version of you is not operating at full capacity. It is operating at reduced capacity while feeling powerful, which is the most dangerous combination in human psychology. Strength is not the loudest voice in the room. Strength is the one that stays quiet long enough to think clearly. Lesson 7. Amor fati. Love what happens to you. This is perhaps the most radical of all Stoic ideas. Not merely to endure what happens. Not merely to accept it but to love it, to find in everything that comes, the good and the painful, exactly the material you needed for your development. Marcus Aurelius expressed this as a fire consuming everything placed into it. Give it wood or coal, give it green timber or old cloth, the fire takes it all and burns brighter. The obstacle does not stop the fire. The obstacle feeds it. This is amor fati. Love of fate, love of what is. Friedrich Nietzsche later made this idea famous, but the Stoics were living it centuries before him. When Marcus faced the death of his children, the betrayal of friends, and war on the empire's borders, he did not crumble. He wrote that what is harmful to the hive cannot be good for the bee, meaning that his suffering, however real, was also part of a larger order he chose to honor rather than resist. How does this apply to your life? Think of the hardest thing that has happened to you. The loss you did not choose. The failure that humiliated you. The relationship that ended badly. Now ask, what did that forge in you? What became possible because of it that could not have been possible without it? Amor fati is the practice of finding the answer to that question before bitterness becomes your permanent residence. It does not mean the pain was not real. It means the pain was not wasted. Lesson 8. Live according to nature. Align with what you truly are. The Stoics had a phrase, live according to nature. But they did not mean what most people assume. They were not telling you to go live in a forest. They meant something far more precise. Live in accordance with your rational nature. Live in accordance with your role as a thinking, social, choosing creature. Stop pretending to be what you are not. Stop living in contradiction to your own values. This lesson is devastatingly relevant today. We live in a world of performance. People perform success they do not have. They perform happiness they do not feel. They perform relationships for audiences who are also performing. The accumulated cost of this performance is enormous. It drains your energy, confuses your identity, and makes genuine connection nearly impossible. Living according to nature means asking, with ruthless honesty, what do I actually value? Not what I have been told to value. Not what looks impressive from the outside. What, in the quiet of my own experience, actually matters? And then, am I living in alignment with that, or in contradiction to it? Epictetus spent years teaching men how to be free. And his central teaching was always this: you are not free when you chase what others approve of. You are free when you live what you actually believe. The man who says one thing and does another is always at war with himself, and that war is more exhausting than any external conflict you will ever face. When your life and your values align, a strange calmness descends. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer split in two. Subscribe to Quotes Library right now if this is the kind of philosophy that speaks to you. Every week we go this deep, and deeper. Press that subscribe button and join thousands of others who are choosing to build their minds instead of just their timelines. Lesson 9. The role you play requires your best performance. Marcus Aurelius had a practice of reminding himself of his roles: emperor, father, husband, friend, philosopher. Each role carried specific obligations, and the Stoic understanding was clear: you did not choose all of your circumstances, but you always choose how well you inhabit them. Epictetus used the metaphor of an actor. The playwright assigns your role. You do not always get to choose the character, but you absolutely choose the quality of your performance. The actor given a small role who plays it with excellence is more noble than the actor given the leading role who plays it carelessly. This lesson dismantles the modern habit of conditional effort. The idea that you will give your best when the circumstances are better. When you feel appreciated. When the pay is right. When people are watching. The Stoics saw this as a profound form of dishonesty to yourself and to the role you have been given. Your life right now, your actual, specific, imperfect circumstances, is the role you have been assigned today. The question is not whether it is the role you wanted. The question is whether you are performing it with everything you have. The parent who brings full presence to an ordinary Tuesday. The professional who gives full effort to a task no one will notice. The person who treats a stranger with kindness when no one else is watching. These are the performances that build character. And character, as the Stoics understood, is the only thing in this life that is truly and permanently yours. Lesson 10. Master the morning. Own the day. The final lesson is one that every serious student of Stoicism must confront. Marcus Aurelius began almost every entry in Meditations with a kind of orientation. He reminded himself of what was difficult. He reminded himself of his purpose. He reminded himself how to think before the day had a chance to hijack his thinking. This was not accidental. It was a practiced discipline. And it is the discipline that separated a philosopher-emperor from the chaos that surrounded him. The Stoics understood that the mind is most malleable at the edges of the day. In the morning, before the noise enters. In the evening, before the mind dissolves into sleep. These are the windows where real self-governance happens. How you use them determines the quality of everything in between. A Stoic morning does not require hours. It requires intention. Spend even 10 minutes in silence asking yourself, what difficulties might I face today? How will I respond if things go badly? What do I want to embody today, not achieve, but embody? This is not wishful thinking. This is psychological preparation. This is the difference between being reactive all day and being deliberate. Seneca wrote that the man who has not arranged his inner life before noon has already lost the day. Not because external events control the outcome, but because a mind without direction is always at the mercy of whatever arrives. The Stoic morning is an act of self-authorship. You are deciding, before the world has a chance to decide for you, who you will be when tested. Closing. These 10 lessons are not decoration. They are not inspirational filler. They are the architecture of a different way of existing, one where you are not at the mercy of your circumstances, your impulses, your fears, or your past. Every single Stoic philosopher who left these ideas first paid for them in real life. Marcus Aurelius wrote them while governing an empire at war. Seneca wrote them while navigating the most dangerous court in the ancient world. Epictetus wrote them while carrying the permanent memory of slavery. These were not comfortable men writing comfortable ideas. They were tested men writing what actually worked. You have been given the same possibility they had. Not the possibility of a perfect life. The possibility of a well-lived one. A life where your mind is your tool rather than your tyrant. A life where difficulty sharpens you rather than breaks you. A life where you are the author of your character, regardless of what you were handed at birth or what fate decides to deliver next. The work begins now, not tomorrow. Not when the conditions improve. Now, with the exact mind you have, in the exact circumstances you are standing in. If this video gave you something real, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and most importantly, subscribe to Quotes Library right now. Every week we release powerful content on Stoicism, self-mastery, and the philosophy of living well. This community is built for people who are serious about their growth. Join us, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss what we publish next. The next video we release may be exactly what you need to hear. See you there. Quotes Library, philosophy, wisdom, mastery.